You know, it was against a very quiet team. So I think, yeah.
An interesting start to kick off for them so far, but now you got a tango with one side being soft. Quite common. And Azami then playing inside of Ops itself. Some teams have done it, but it is considered like a very, very aggressive and risky spot to hold. But so far, he is absolutely bossing this team. Don't think he knows about the players. But now, Twisted Minds naturally have to slow things down and say, yeah, maybe Ops is a dud. We'll try and push somewhere else. We've got Tricks now hitting the deck as well. Solotov to collect that closing kill. It's looking a little bit pedestrian for Falcons so far, truthfully. Team Jalad and Hasham, the only two left standing with a lot of work to do. And frankly, not a lot of time remaining as we get towards the last 50 seconds or so. Hasham finds one, instant trade out by Solotov. Second time in this round where he's got himself a pretty critical kill like that. Now Jalad's got it all to do in a 1 versus 3. They know exactly where he's coming from. This looks rough.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for him from here. It was a nice little pre-fire that got him that one. Ooh, make that a second. 1v4 becomes a 1v2, becomes a 1v1. Surely not. Jalad knows where the last is, and Solotov needs to stop taking the peak here. 25 seconds left to go. Jalad doesn't have diffuser in hand, by the way, so low health. Solotov does manage to take too much from Tricks here, but certainly worth keeping an eye on. He's able to go through clear large areas of the map quickly himself if the opportunity presents. I'm not sure it's going to do, but P9 manages to find Solotov at least and make that a second. 3.
Was one of our old best players back when he was on the team before. Never really the kind of guy to go charging in like a player like Moki might or Doki might and be hyper aggressive. June's kind of trying to half take up that mantle now of being the aggressive player. Gets the kill, gets the down off the...
Two of the most experienced and patient, calm players I think that we have inside of the league. So I really can't see them giving anything away. P9 does manage to find one. Trade is there. 1v2 becomes a 1v1. But look at the health on Breedy.
This is manic. I think Falcons keep on trying to force out like a one-man play like Doom early on. Yeah, he got a kill and got a down, but I was like, okay, did it need that aggressive play? And it seems that's kind of carried on. They've forced out 1v1s constantly. Doverkid infantry. Come on, it's a bit too easy. C4 as you run to the door. If there's a player sat on the vertical watching you, it can be very, very risky. But they've made it work here, Tim, by trying to actually kind of bait out. They've got the main breach opened up to make it look like something's going on inside of there, and it was a very, very long-range plan with support from those smokes, but just as they're about to finish the stick, all the kills flying from Falcons. They get
phenomenal start here on Leia, really tearing into Twist.
Because there is Doverkin just underneath him here, and this is only going to slow Twisted Mind down that little bit further, and finally, there goes the blitz. We had Leakabat lurking.
4 versus 4 as Jalad manages to pick up Doom. Never going to be a bad pickup for Twisted Minds. Take him off the board. And somebody else on the side of Falcons now needs to be finding some kills. How about that? Leakabat just dips under the Vendetta. Useless. As I say this, they all erupt into action, picking them up. And that's, I think, always going to be one of the big strengths of this Falcons side is the ability, the strength in depth that they've got.
Collapse before Twisted Minds in this half. Here we go. Both doubled up together, looking to play for the trade onto at least one. Trying to isolate one out, but no! Leaking back with a spray onto the soft wall, gets one. Hasham's there for the trade. Final 5 seconds. He's got to go after Breedy, but has absolutely no idea where he is. This one's looking pretty done. Off towards the right. It's the right idea inside a highway. Just a little bit too late to the punch there. Breedy holds on, and a lot of time to still keep himself safe when it needs demand. I think his shell's actually on the first floor, by the way.
Yeah, I think you could be right there. Leakabat manages to pick up Tricks. There is one in response, though. Jalad onto Solotov, and that's another thing, you know, if I'm picking out a list of things Twisted Minds have done well, trading, not necessarily always direct trades, but keeping themselves in the numbers game has been a good thing. You know, when they lose somebody, there tends to be a response like this. They've lost somebody upstairs, but then there's real pressure coming somewhere else. P9 manages to find users, so we find ourselves still 3v3. They never getting run over in these rounds, really. But again, that 10% just starts to show itself as Breedy, June, bare their teeth, find one apiece. How about that from P9, by the way? Beautiful use of the F2, just hitting the hip fire as he drops the hatch, manages to take down Breedy, and that leaves June and Leakabat. 1v3 becomes a 1v2. Cannot find any more as June will close it down here.
He's dancing around on Skybridge this time around and looking just to put a bit of challenge in. He's always going to be this entry that they're coming up against on the side of Twisted Minds. They're burning a line towards him here. They've had utility and they've had guns pointing his way. They've found one. Dritz gets in, gets rid of Doom and Leakabat.
A little bit of space that they can work with now. They've got a lot more control than they had last time, at least, over that top floor. Still not in complete control. Solotov manages to find one, but not a second. Trade is there 4 versus 2, and Twisted Mind
get this one down. He's going to try and do what he can, making use of this utility. Just got to see where the plan starts going down, but it's a little bit of a bait almost coming out on the other side here. Now going to recover it, and now's their time to make it happen. But while he's looking, Tim, as Shamas just walks in behind them all. And
3 points here for them. We'll bring it back to the casters.
Genius he played, and it was a close round off the back of a 1v2 being won out for Twisted. And 3 more of those keeper barriers in back pocket for Jalad to make use of. There's a lot here that Falcons have still got to work for. I don't think they'll be quite given the chance, but Solotov, how does he hit a reverse pick?
all cylinders for the most part, and it could do with just making sure everybody gets a little bit more into the game. I was going to say users, he's hit some good shots, but has been a little bit quiet, and it's not going to improve this round as he finds himself down and out. Dover manages to take down Bride as well. 2 versus 2 though, as we have a quick flurry of kills there. Users is down effectively at this point. I don't think Leakafak will have the chance to get him back up, but we'll know that he's now in a 1v1. 20 seconds left to go.
Hasn't got diffuser though, so really it's Leakafak that's got to push in here, which means exposing himself. The flash coming on through, going to get users up as well. I like it, but time is now going to start to hurt them. Hasham still dancing around the same spot. At least one's there for information, and Leakafak! Of course he ain't going to miss that. Sound goes more aggressive, not less as a result. June working his way down, hoping to try and catch him out on the retreat back, but here's the cover. June though still finding P9. That's going to have to force Jalad back because he was his insurance policy, the guy that had his back, and a spray through. We'll find Solotov. If not him, it would have been the player behind him that got that one. But again, it's
on very low health at the minute as well. Need to be careful here. The Aruni's putting some serious pressure onto the Blackbeard. Missed shots there. Had to be finding that. Hasham is just fighting a great fight here. Does lose out eventually, but found one. A lot
himself busy around the map and making sure that he's involved in everything that's going on. It's why he's got almost as many kills as 3 other players on his team have got combined. He really is cooking up a bit of a storm. However, here come Twisted Minds trying to hold on as best they can, but June just carries on, gets a 4K in the round with Bride getting 1 for himself.
You'd look at this one and think it's maybe not quite a fair reflection, but unfortunately you've got to win the whole round, not just part of it. June again comes in with the entry this time. That's his 5th in the game, by the way, 5th entry kill. Trix does manage to find Solotov. 4v4 levels it up. That's the hard control of ops. They are moving across mezzanine as well. Trix is going to come under Dover's going to come under some pressure there on Rockets there as he just maybe overcommits to that one. June it is who steps around with the F2, finds his man. I think the Demos just sees the head of the Goyo. Leakafak threads the needle and finds his man. 4v2, Falcons cruising towards a victory at this rate.
It's what can you do against this aggression? There he is, that name again, June. Up to 17 kills, now bullied Tricksters as he gets aggressed onto Leakafak with the closing kill.
I can hear that, you know, they're not super happy yet, right? There's always things to work on, and they weren't really expecting this and aren't even showing the consistency in scrims. So when you're hearing that from a player, Jack, what is that kind of like telling you in the season?
That's telling me that there's a player inside of Leakafak that's desperate to win, and you know they know that they've got close, and they know that most teams over the last 24 months, if you look at it from when this project first started, really would be happy with a lot of second places, third places competing in finals, but not this roster. They want to win. They are, you know, literally so desperate, and the fact that even though that they've only lost 3 rounds across 2 maps so far, they will go to playoffs.